What if I told you some of the most successful NBA teams didn't lean on their starters, but on the guys coming off the bench? These weren't your ordinary run-of-the-mill second units. These were the guys that helped take over games, thrust playoff runs, and raise banners. These benches were so good that they could have been starters for another team. But how? First, let's rewind back to 2011. The 2010-2011 Thunder were not expected to have success this year. They were not expected to go far, but they were still a work in progress. Kevin Durant was just 22, Russell Westbrook 22 as well, both learning the balance between takeover mode and the team basketball. But the secret weapon wasn't in the starting lineup. It was sitting on the bench, waiting to tilt games in Oklahoma City's favor. The Thunder's reserves weren't household names, but they had a kind of chemistry that young contenders usually lack. James Harden, Nick Collison, Eric Maynor, and Daquan Cook gave OKC the stability that their explosive stars sometimes struggled to provide. While Durant and Westbrook brought raw talent and volatility, the bench brought order, spacing, and in Harden's case, something that looked suspiciously like star-level creation. Harden, in only his second season, averaged 12.2 points, 2.1 assists, and 3.1 rebounds in 26 minutes per game. On paper, those numbers were modest. In reality, he was the glue. When he checked in, the pace slowed down, the ball moved side to side, and suddenly, Oklahoma City was playing fast, frantic, and more importantly, they were playing smart. Harden ran pick and rolls with patience rare for a 21-year-old, manipulating defenders with hesitation, dribbles, slick passes, and timely drives. It wasn't Durant or Westbrook setting up second-unit buckets. It was Harden, orchestrating like a seasoned veteran. By the postseason, his responsibilities outgrew the bench guy label. He began to finish games. Thabo Sefolosha might have been the defensive starter, but Harden was the one Scott Brooks trusted when it was time to score in crunch time. The Western Conference got its first real glimpse of how dangerous he was becoming. And if you've made it this far, just know I love you. Show some love back and sub to this channel for more content like this. Anyways, Harden wasn't doing it alone. Nick Collison, the longtime Thunder lifer, was the soul of that second unit. Collison rarely appeared in highlight reels, but inside the walls of OKC's locker room, his value was obvious. He screened harder than anyone, boxed out every possession, rotated perfectly on defense, and had the knack for drawing charges that flipped momentum. Collison's stat line might have read 2 points, 4 rebounds, but if you watch closely, you knew he was buying Durant and Westbrook extra possessions every night. Coaches leaned on him to steady the paint, and Harden leaned on him to free space in the pick and roll. Then there was Eric Maynor, the steady backup point guard acquired from Utah. He didn't put up flashy numbers either, but his ability to control tempo meant Westbrook could rest without the Thunder offense collapsing. Maynor was a calm presence who got the ball where it needed to go, whether it was Harden curling off a screen or Cook spotting up on the wing. Speaking of Daquan Cook, his job was simple: shoot threes and spread the floor, and he did it well. Cook shot 42% from deep in the 2011 playoffs, punishing defenses that sagged off to clog the lane against Durant and Westbrook. His spacing gave Harden and Durant the driving lanes they thrived on. Put all that together, and you had a bench that not only was filling minutes, it was swinging games in their favor. In the first round against Denver, Harden averaged nearly 14 points while shooting 50% from the field and 36% from three. He played fearlessly, attacking the rim, getting to the line, and hitting big shots late in games. Against the veteran Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals, Harden's coming-out moment arrived. In Game 5, with OKC desperate to extend the series, he scored 23 points on 7 of 9 shooting, keeping the Thunder competitive long after the starter sputtered. It was a cruel irony. Harden, the sixth man, was often the Thunder's third most important player, and sometimes their second. His calm decision-making balanced out Westbrook's fire, while his creativity lifted some of the burden off Durant. For such a young team, having that kind of depth was priceless. And here's a question that lingers. If Harden was already outshining starters as a bench player, how different would Thunder history look if they had kept that core together? Collison anchoring the second unit, shooters like Cook spacing the floor, Harden evolving into a superstar, all backing up Durant and Westbrook. Instead, that bench was a preview of a dynasty that never quite materialized. The 2011 Thunder bench wasn't just good for backups, it was the rare second unit that often played smarter, calmer, and more effective basketball than the starting five. Outside of Durant, Harden would soon win an MVP. But in 2011, he was the league's most dangerous sixth man, showing us that Oklahoma City's bench could alter the outcome of entire playoff series. How did the 2007 San Antonio Spurs win a championship with one of their best players not starting? Greg Popovich's answer was Manu Ginobili. In the 2006-07 season, Manu averaged 16.5 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, but Popovich often brought him off the bench. That single decision gave San Antonio one of the most unfair advantages in basketball, a future Hall of Famer running against second units. Most teams hoped their bench wouldn't lose ground. The Spurs expected theirs to stretch leads. Manu's arrival flipped the rhythm of games. When he checked in, the pace spiked. His drives bent defenses, forcing rotations and opening shooters. On defense, his anticipation created steals that turned into transition buckets. And when the Spurs needed a dagger, Manu's unshakable confidence made him the guy to take it. But the brilliance wasn't just Ginobili, it was how Popovich built the pieces around him. Michael Finley, once a critical piece to the Dallas Mavericks, reinvented himself as a role player. His shooting from the wings gave Manu space to attack, and he still had enough scoring juice to punish mismatches. Robert Horry brought championship poise. At 36, he wasn't the athlete he once was anymore, but every playoff run seemed to feature that one big shot rob moment, whether it was a corner three, a help side block, or a subtle defensive rotation that saved a possession. Even the front court depth mattered. Fabricio Oberto and Francisco Elson wasn't stars, but they soaked up minutes against bigger centers, set crushing screens, and added toughness. In a league where many benches were filled with placeholders, the Spurs had complementary pieces who executed their roles perfectly. The 2007 finals against Cleveland put this depth on display. LeBron James, just 22, carried the Cavs to the championship stage, but San Antonio's relentless balance smothered him. Manu averaged nearly 18 points across the series and poured in 27 in Game 1, slicing through Cleveland's defense while Duncan and Parker anchored the starting unit. Finley and Horry drilled timely shots that stretched the Cavs thin, while the bench's stability ensured Cleveland never found a run. San Antonio went 16-4 in the postseason, winning the chip, and much of that dominance came from the fact that their second unit didn't just maintain, they attacked. Duncan and Parker set the tone early, but when Manu entered with the reserves, the Spurs never dipped. That constant rolling wave of pressure was unique to San Antonio's system. Toronto's chase for its first championship wasn't just about Kawhi Leonard's heroic. It hinged on a bench that turned backup minutes into game-changing runs. Fred VanVleet, Serge Ibaka, and Norman Powell weren't placeholders keeping the score steady. They were the spark that flipped momentum, carrying stretches Kawhi and the starters couldn't shoulder alone. VanVleet's rise became playoff folklore. After a rocky start to the postseason, he caught fire at the perfect moment, the Eastern Conference Finals against Milwaukee. Following the birth of his son, he went 14 for 17 from 3 over the final 3 games. That hot streak turned the series upside down, outshining Milwaukee's vaunted depth and giving Kawhi the support he desperately needed. Serge Ibaka fully embraced his bench role behind Marc Gasol. No longer the nightly starter, he turned into the classic X Factor. His best moment came in the finals against Golden State. 20 points, 9 of 12 shooting, and 4 blocks in Game 4. With the Warriors desperate to tie the series, Ibaka's energy erased any chance of a comeback. Every team preaches about next man up, but Ibaka was proof of how devastating it can be when that guy is a former all-defensive anchor. Norman Powell brought unpredictability. Streaky but fearless. He came alive in the Philadelphia series, slashing through the lane, running in transition, and hitting just enough shots to tilt momentum. Against Milwaukee, his athletic burst off the bench gave Toronto a scoring jolt that matched the Bucks' firepower. And the depth didn't stop there. Patrick McCaw, a quiet 3-time champion at just 23, soaked up key minutes as a defensive specialist, giving Toronto extra length on the perimeter. Even journeymen like Jody Meeks and Jeremy Lin, though sparingly used, represented options Nick Nurse could call on without fear of the moment being too big. The Raptors bench had layers upon layers of trust, and it wasn't just about points, it was about stops. VanVleet hounded Steph Curry into contested looks in the finals. Ibaka battled Draymond Green inside, and Powell willingly absorbed tough wing assignments. The versatility gave Nick Nurse the flexibility to survive grueling matchups round after round. Kawhi was the unquestioned star, but without that bench, Toronto doesn't beat Philadelphia, doesn't break Milwaukee's wall, and doesn't close out the Warriors. Looking back, the pattern is obvious. The Raptors' second unit was a deadly championship-caliber weapon. Starters usually earn the headlines, but these three teams proved depth can decide titles. The Thunder's young core had Harden blossoming as a superstar off the bench. The Spurs turned Ginobili into the deadliest sixth man of his era, and the Raptors rode VanVleet, Ibaka, and Powell to the most important championship in franchise history. These benches weren't waiting for their chance, they were taking games over. So the next time a coach talks about strength and numbers, remember these squads, the second units that flipped entire seasons and showed that sometimes the bench is the real engine, proving championships aren't won by 5 players, but by the full team.